City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public meeting on April 9th, 2007 at 6:30 p.m. concerning the following petitions. The first one we have is a continuance. Richard Guthrie, 110 Burnside Street, 105 Sale Street. It's a traditional single family. He wants to construct a single family that exceeds the maximum allowable front yard setback on an undersized lot with insufficient frontage on 110 Burnside, and to make an existing single family on 105 Sale Street on an undersized lot. Mr. Guthrie?
Mr. Chairman, Attorney Dennis Tague, I represent the applicant, Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Tague, I just want to let you know that we only have 4 members, and it's your option to hear the petition or not, but you have to have all 4 members vote in favor for it. If one chooses not to vote, then it will be denied. So we'll give you that option.
Is the other member expected to be in attendance tonight?
No, we're minus one. One member is resigned. We have one that's sick, and there's one that's out of the country, so.
Go with it.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I represent Mr. Guthrie, and at our last meeting on March 9th, our original submissions were found unsatisfactory to the board's needs, and specifically, we submitted an old plot plan relying on former building commissioner Alan Frazier's notation on that plan that it does not have to be redone. Because of the age of that plan and the issue of the extent of a granted walkway and maintenance easement, you requested an updated ZBA plan for the property in the application, and the new plan has been submitted to you tonight. The building on the proposed plan has been moved 5 feet to the north from the plan that was endorsed by Commissioner Frazier. This accommodates for the fullest extent of the walkway and maintenance easement. The front, rear, and side setbacks conform with present zoning, although we still desire the latitude of having a variance on the front yard setback to exceed the maximum if circumstances and neighborhood harmony are fostered by that. I remind you that the reason for the application is that the Guthries desire to have a 5,000 square foot building lot with 50 feet of frontage and to maintain an abutting lot at 105 Sale Street as an undersized lot. That would be 5,000 square feet with 50 feet of frontage as well. This lot and the lot at 105 Sale Street are in the center of 92 like-size lots of 5,000 square feet with 50 feet of frontage. Adverse impact to the neighborhood is negligible. It doesn't derogate from the present aesthetics and character of the neighborhood. Over 50 neighbors have written to express their support of Mr. Guthrie's efforts. 5 of them have written individual statements which have been submitted to you tonight. Again, I want to emphasize the intent. Mr. Guthrie is interested in having his daughter, Jennifer Aylward, her husband, and her 2-year-old son move into the home once it's constructed. The Guthrie family has a long history in the neighborhood and in Lowell. They've lived at the Sale Street property for the better half of a century. Theirs is a history of community involvement, of good neighborliness, and of responsibility. They take good care of their property, and their family members have impeccable reputations as law-abiding civil participants. Mr. Guthrie has more incentive than others to be exacting in his standards regarding the construction on the lot. He lives next door with his wife. People like Jennifer and Jim Aylward and their little boy are the types of citizens we should be competing to have here in the city of Lowell. Approval of this application is benign, if not beneficial, use of the lot, as it would otherwise become a tangent development to serve 105 Sale Street. Speculation on what things could be built there as an alternative runs from a block garage to a gravel or paved parking lot to a swimming pool. Although those are not the present intents of Mr. Guthrie, we don't know what his successors entitled might do with that land at 110 Burnside. So wouldn't it behoove the neighborhood and the city to have a lot that permanently establishes a tastefully constructed home on the property and a responsible neighbor residing there? And you're going to render that decision, and we urge you to give a favorable vote.
Okay, thank you. Before we turn it over to the board and also some of the neighbors. Just look at the plot plan real quick. What was the reasoning for stacked parking where the other plot plan didn't have that? And this board is really not in favor of that stacked parking.
Well, as I said, the application requests that we can exceed the maximum setback, and this is just a rendering, this is not the development plan. I had actually envisioned something more of an archway driveway, if we could get a setback variance, moving the house back and allowing ingress and egress through two different points.
Well, moving that house back, let's say 10 feet, and putting the parking in the front?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. That would be, but we would require the waiver on the setback.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that myself. By the way, this is the plot plan which we're trying to tell all our petitioners to have, the one with the table. It gives you the required setbacks and the required frontage and telling what you lack and what you do have. So just to give you attorneys a good feel of what this board is looking for. Yeah, me personally, I would like to move the house back somewhat and have the driveway side by side. Stack parking is going to be a problem. I know it's going to be. If possible, leave the extended driveway the way it is and add one more to the side in case you have some type of visitors. Instead of parking on that hill, you'll be able to park the third car in the driveway. That would be my feeling. But let me open it up to the neighbors and see what comments they have to say. Is there any neighbor here that likes to speak in favor for this petition? In favor? Anybody like to speak in opposition? Well, Mr. Guthrie, you like to speak?
I just wanted to add that I wanted to try to address the neighbors.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Richard Guthrie. I live at 105 Sale Street. I'm the owner of 110 Burnside.
Okay.
And I wanted to address some of the concerns of the neighbors, which are congestion, where the tradesmen were going to park their trucks in the event that this went through. So I moved the house over so that the tradesmen can bring their trucks in off the street, into the backyard, into my property also, so there'll be no trucks out there when work is being done. As far as, there's a few pictures there that you have, Mr. Chairman, showing standing on the lot facing up the street or down the street. It shows that there's no, there's no blind sight. There's also a photo there of a garage directly across the street from the lot with two automobiles. I mean, that's something that if I wasn't able to build, I could build a garage there. But I am trying to address whatever concerns that the neighbors have in regards to this proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? Is there anybody here like to speak in opposition? Opposition, yes, sir.
I'm Dean Johnson. I live on Burnside and on Fairgrove as well, and I'd like to just take a moment.
What's your address, sir?
My address is 21 Fairgrove, and
Okay.
I own a double lot that extends clear through to Burnside.
Right, okay.
We park on Burnside. I'm on Burnside every day. Our lot is diagonally across the street from the lot in question. And all the points that Attorney Day made are good ones, but we'd like to bring up some points just for the rest of the board to consider.
Sure, thank you. Yep.
We might just mention that besides myself, the two other people are going to be speaking here are directly across the street from the lot in question and just down the street on Burnside. Between the three of us, we have nearly 100 years as taxpayers in the city of Lowell on the street in question. So we're not going anywhere.
Okay.
And we just want to, just briefly, as I mentioned, we park our cars on Burnside. I've been there for nearly 25 years. We have no bone to pick with Mr. Guthrie. We have a cordial relationship with him in the time that we've all been there. But a number of things that we want to consider that I know the people following me are going to speak about as well, too. Mr. Guthrie applied for variance for the same site several years ago. It was turned down. Another similar situation on Burnside, just up the street, applied for variance. It was turned down for the same reasons that are concerning the neighbors today. And it's important to consider that the situation hasn't gotten any better. Our same concerns have only gotten worse. The congestion and the traffic problems and that blind spot that is of great concern to all of us who live there and work there on a daily basis. Because of the steepness of the hill on Burnside, there is a blind spot almost exactly where the lot is. Every time I go down the street, I've got to come to a dead stop before I can take the left turn onto the property to make sure that there's no one coming. Now, the same applies to Mr. Scanlon and the rest of the neighbors in the area. Yeah, a new house would only increase the traffic flow. It would only create added visual difficulty and general congestion. The idea of several months of construction, that there may be room to put it on the lot, but there's still going to be heavy use of the street, and the contractors aren't going to park on the lot all the time. I don't think anyone can reasonably expect that to be the case. And even after the house would be built, those are still going to be problems of the added congestion and the traffic there as well. To grant a variance and allow a house to be built at that location on a lot that isn't close to current city regulations under those conditions would be a disservice to the homeowners with property in Burnside who, like myself, has spent a great part of what is a great little section of the Upper Highlands. And we understand that Mr. Guthrie hopes to have family there, but they're not going to be prevented from living in the city of Lowell if they're not allowed to build on a spot that right now the city of Lowell tells them that they cannot, that there are plenty of other places where they can do that. And again, our concern is that it's not in the best interests of those neighbors who are going to be directly impacted by this. A number of the neighbors might have signed that sheet for Mr. Guthrie, and he's been a good neighbor, but if they live on Sales or if they live on Princeton Boulevard, they're not going to be impacted by this, and they signed it because they think he's a good guy. And in their dealings with him, they may well be right. But for those of us who are impacted directly by this, it's going to be a hardship and a difficulty, and frankly, it's going to increase the danger of that street. So, you know, it's our concern in pleading to the board that it really wouldn't be in the best interests of the neighbors or of the safety of the street, which means it really, in the long run, wouldn't be in the best interests of the city of Lowell. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Mary Scanlon. I live at 25 Fairgrove Avenue, and like Mr. Johnson, my husband and I have a lot that faces Burnside Street, and we have the garage that has the two cars that Mr. Guthrie had referred to. And I wrote a letter to you, Mr. Kazanjian, and to the rest of the group, and said that I was against this. And the main reason that I am against this petition is because of safety reasons. And I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs from my letter. I have a very important concern that weighs heavily in my heart, that of safety. I have lived at the present address for over 30 years. As a resident of 25 Fairgrove Avenue, with my garage and driveway on Burnside Street facing the Guthrie properties, I have seen many children from all over riding their bicycles in the good weather. Now, Burnside Street is also a school bus route. As you know, there is a blind spot as one approaches the hill from the south side. On the north side, further down the hill, there is difficulty seeing what is nearing from Princeton Boulevard. Burnside Street is a thoroughfare between Middlesex Street and Princeton Boulevard. I am certain that you are aware of Burnside Street being used by residents of many different communities, not just Lowell. When there is heavy flooding or another emergency on Middlesex Street, sometimes cars and city buses are guided by the police to use Burnside Street to approach Princeton Boulevard in order to go west. I, in good conscience, cannot say yes to this petition, even though I like the Guthries very much. It has nothing against you. I wouldn't care if the Pope lived there. I would say the same thing. I believe that many drivers and pedestrians will ignore any warning signs regarding the blind spots or whatever other kind of signs would be placed on Burnside Street. I am the mother of a child who was hit in that neighborhood. We had a long recovery with her. Thank God she walks without a limp today, but it took several months for that limp to go away. And I never want any other mother or father or anyone to ever face what we did. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak in opposition?
Yes, good evening. My name is Jim Scanlon. I live at 25 Fairgrove Avenue, and our lot is directly across the lot for which Mr. Guthrie has requested a variance. I just want to clarify a couple of things that said when all the lots in the area were characterized as being the same size. Well, my lot goes all the way from Burnside to Fairgrove. Dean Johnson, my immediate neighbor, lot goes all the way from Burnside to Fairgrove. The Kean Garrises, who live on our other side of our house, their lot goes all the way from Fairgrove to Burnside. Similarly, across the street, Mr. Guthrie's lot, there's two lots. It goes all the way from Burnside to Sales. His neighbor to the north, his lot goes all the way from Burnside to Sales. So clearly, all the lots in the area are not undersized lots. And as I said before, when I wrote my letter, my main concern was, and still is, the safety. And I would strongly recommend, before anyone would agree to approve it, is to actually go and stand at the top of Burnside Street or drive your car, and you see this tremendous blind spot. And as my wife had indicated, again, we had a child who was hit in the neighborhood. It's very dangerous, and you could be, and when I go down there and pull into my driveway, I almost come to a complete stop when I'm going downhill. It's extremely dangerous. So I would ask the board, before they make any decision, to take a good, strong look at this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Erwin Davis. I live at 84 Burnside Street. I have here the copy of the plan that Mr. Tigg gave me just this evening, and one of the things that still bother me is that it's listing as 5,000 square feet. This is the lot plan. With the existing easement granted to Mr. Walsh, that is reducing his area by approximately,
Well, he still owns the property. An easement's an easement. They have the right to, the next door neighbor has the right to use the easement, but Mr. Guthrie owns that land, and that's still the 5,000 square foot lot. Yeah, if he had subdivided it and turned it over to the next door neighbor, then it'd be a different story. But the easement is an easement. It gives the individual a right to use that land, but Mr. Guthrie still owns the property.
Oh, all right, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm not legally inclined on this.
That's fine, that's okay.
No, but it's still a concrete cement wall, and that there's nothing can be done to it because it's attached almost to Mr. Walsh's property. So if it's still, to me, a very undersized lot. And I will point out that the safety that the concerns, just today, I saw 3 children coming down the street on these little scooters that they are now using, and I have seen a number of them come down and fall down, and I think we're going to get some very serious accidents there. And I think this is still a very undersized lot, and Mr. Frazier, back in '98, said that it was an unbuildable lot and that the two were combined, and I still go along with that decision as he was commissioner at that time. And again, I urge you gentlemen to look at the fact that it is a very undersized lot and turn this petition down. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Okay, thank you. You know, it is, right now, today's standards, it is an undersized lot. Back 50 years or so, when this subdivision was approved and done, it was, all these lots were 5,000 square feet. And I'm looking at the map right now from the engineers, And across the street on Burnside and Fairgrove, you have most of the lots are 4,370 square feet, and they go back from Fairgrove onto Burnside. Most of the lots are connected together, but they are separate lots, and it looks like some of the individuals could do the same thing that Mr. Guthrie is doing. It looks like your lot might be 7,500 square feet. It looks like you and your neighbor probably cut one of the lots in half and took 2,500 square feet apiece.
I own all of Lot 17,
Okay,
and Mr. Rogers, who is my next-door neighbor, and I split Lot 16.
right, so you got 7,500 square feet
I have
apiece.
75,
Right,
and
right.
going up the street,
Right.
the same thing entails that the contractor, I believe was Wilkins, he bought the 6 lots and converted to 4 lots with 4 houses on that
Right.
side of Burnside Street.
Right, and the houses on Sale Street, Burnside, Fairgrove, they're all anywhere from 4,300 square feet to 5,000 square feet. You do have, there's 2 lots there, one's yours, one's your neighbor's, that is 7,500 square feet, where you split the 2 lots
Yeah.
and made that
Now,
difference.
one thing I believe that all the houses up on Princeton were probably built before the change in the zoning laws, and they were built on 5,000 square feet.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
This zoning change was done back in the 60s, and...
I know
Yeah,
one of
and-
them was done in
right.
'66, and I think... there was
Exactly,
another-
yep, right,
Yeah.
right.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
gentlemen.
Is there anybody else like to speak in opposition? Hold on one second, Mr. Guthrie. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, okay, Mr. Guthrie, you'd like to speak?
I would like to address those issues they're talking about. You have 2 neighbors that live on Fairgrove Street, and they complain about congestion on Burnside. Then why are they parking their automobiles on Burnside? Why aren't they parking them on Fairgrove? That's a question I'd like to have answered. I mean, you know, they're talking about all this congestion and they're having trouble backing out of their driveway, and then why are they parking over there then? Their residence is on Fairgrove Street, then why are they not parking on Fairgrove Street? And as far as there are children everywhere, on every single street. There are no signs on Burnside that say blind driveway. There are no signs that say steep hill. Mr. Davis's issue about the blind, he's at the bottom of the hill. He has an issue, but that wasn't a problem when he purchased his home there. That hill's been there forever.
Okay.
I mean, you know, that's just something I'm trying to point out here to the board, as these are just excuses here. This is what this is. I'm not asking to be treated special. I'm just asking to be treated fairly, like everybody else that would have been treated in this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else like to speak? Good, yes, good.
First of all, he is asked to be treated special because he's asking for a variance. But Mr. Scanlon and I park on Burnside because it's the only place where we have off-street parking available. If we had to park on Fairgrove, we'd have to drive up on hills onto our lawn, and it would be unsafe to park on the street because of the construction that is there. And where we choose to park because we own our property is because of the circumstances we have there.
But do you park on the street or you park on?
No, we have off-street parking.
Okay.
Mr. Scanlon has a garage on the site, and
Right.
I've got a paved area where both of us park off of Burnside.
But you live on Fairgrove and you park, what do you have, you park on Burnside, is that correct?
Because there is no frontage on Fairgrove. I'd have to park on the street. But we own both lots, and we have a paved area on Burnside, which is where we park. Mr. Scanlon has a garage with a driveway on Burnside. And we might mention that we've been here for 20, and forgive me for stating the obvious, the city of Lowell has changed a great deal since then. So yes, 25 years ago and 30 years ago, when we lived there and we parked there, there wasn't as much traffic. Burnside wasn't so congested. There wasn't as much building. The very nature of the street in the city has changed dramatically, and that's why we really feel that it would not be to the betterment of that part of the city to allow this to happen. But we're not making up these things. These are very real issues and very real things.
Well, I'm sure you're not making things up. I mean, you have some concerns, you're here to address those concerns, and we're here to listen to them. Yes, ma'am.
I would not be here tonight if it weren't for safety issues. I have told children through the years, when I've scolded them for being on Burnside Street, kids from other parts of the neighborhood, that my own child was run over in that neighborhood. And I always tell them to be very, very careful. And I have no other issue than safety. I don't care if you build a house. I care about safety. And don't accuse any of us here of not caring and making agendas, please, because we like you very much. We have nothing against you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to address a couple of things, and I don't want to this to descend any further. You know, it's regrettable what happened to Mrs. Scanlon's child. I noticed that she didn't say that her child was injured on Burnside Street, but in the neighborhood. But Mr. Guthrie, first of all, it was brought up that Mr. Guthrie had applied for a variance and was denied, and that never happened, and I challenged the person who made that allegation to come forward with the denial. The traffic flow and the congestion, if anybody proceeds, and I've done this several times myself, up and down Burnside Street at 25 miles an hour, there is no blind spot. If there's a blind spot, somebody is disobeying the speed limit. Control of the contractors will be completely in Mr. Guthrie's purview. He will be able to direct them to come on and off of his property, or they'll be fired. And as I suggested, other things could be built on this property that will require equipment to come on to pave the property so that he can have a driveway similar to Mr. Scanlon's and Mr. Johnson's. You know, all of that aside, you know, safety should not be an issue. There are safety issues all over this town. Burnside Street, if you drive at the appropriate speed limit, is not one of them.
okay, thank you. I will let this young lady speak first.
Chairman and the board, I'm sorry I'm late. My name is Jennifer Aylward. Unfortunately, I've been in and out of some doctor appointments today, so I wasn't able to make it on time. I just wanted to introduce myself and say that I would be the one that would reside, along with my husband and my 2-year-old child, at 110 Burnside Street. We are both school teachers. I have lived in that neighborhood for 25 years myself. I've played with some of the children that these neighbors have come up. We've always had a wonderful relationship. Their children have been my age, and so on and so on. Also because being a school teacher and living in that neighborhood, and just the fact that due to some recent health issues, it's probably the utmost importance just to take your time in deciding this decision. This isn't just about us building a house. It's about us getting some support from our family. Some recent health scares has caused us to rethink our relationship with one another, and my parents have been very close with us in taking care of my son and driving me to and from different areas. As far as traffic, if you look at where the driveway was going to be, there isn't a blind spot from that driveway. It's actually higher than Mr. and Mrs. Scannell's driveway, so you can see clearly up and down the street. As far as congestion-wise, everybody here, I'm assuming who's on the board, who has children in here, realize that we don't have a life when we have children. We realize, too, that we understand the difficulties of the Hill, and we are more than happy to make a promise to the best of our ability that if we do have family over, that they would park at the top of the street. I know a few of you have been out to the site, and there isn't hardly any on-street parking up and down that hill. So there is plenty of area at the top of the street if we were to have anybody over, and we would make it a point to say, can you please park at the front if we didn't have any room in the driveway. So I just kind of wanted to give you a character witness, and I apologize for the way I look, and that we just would like you just to take us into consideration. You know, we're both school teachers, we're both upstanding, we're both very quiet. We love the neighborhood. We have a lot of family there, a lot of friends there that have been there for years. I lived in an apartment on the same street as my parents as well for a couple of years, so we have a good reputation, and I just wanted you guys to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm sure he didn't mean it the way it sounded, but the attorney really impugned what all of the neighbors said by saying there really is no blind spot there. It's difficult to believe that in perhaps the couple of hours he spent on the street that he'd have a more definitive opinion than those of us who have spent 20 and 30 years there. There's a blind spot. It's a big one. It's a dangerous one. And it doesn't matter how slow or how fast you go. And I think all of us are greatly disturbed that he's calling into question our character by saying it doesn't exist. Regarding the Guthrie situation, they're great people. We have no contention of that. I think I can speak freely for all the neighbors. But by the same token, they're both school teachers. They're not going to be forbidden from living in the neighborhood or in the city of Lowell if the board realizes that, again, the reason that there are zoning regulations is protect neighborhoods like this because of an overbuild-up and a safety issue that, regardless of what Attorney Tagg may think, is a very real one, and I doubt he's been able to test it all 4 seasons at all hours of the day and night. And were he to do that, I'm sure he would have retracted what he said.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open up to the board now, and go ahead, Mr. Knox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. The first comment I want to make is this obviously is a very difficult petition. We have a lot of emotion. And there were 2 words that I wrote down that have been repeated. One is safety, the other is congestion. Safety is an issue that the city perhaps can assist with signage and with additional control, perhaps monitoring with the police department. Congestion is something that, regardless of how we vote today, if we were to deny this petition and any other house on Burnside Street were to be sold through a normal real estate transaction, and that family were to move in, and they have 4 or 5 vehicles, does that not add to the congestion? So if any of these houses on Burnside were to be sold under a normal legal transaction, is there a limit to the amount of cars that they can have through a normal real estate transaction? I don't think so. That being said, that would add to the congestion. So the real issue, which the lady proposed, and I agree after seeing the area, is safety. So I think the point is, what can the city do to help, regardless of whether this petition is approved or not? The safety issue apparently is one that exists now. So what can we do, the city, to help that issue of safety? I think that's the real point here. And I think that's the issue I want to focus. Thank you.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Just to go over a few of the issues mentioned at the same time. One being the construction vehicles on site. I don't foresee that being a problem as far as the construction, because I do believe we can get the vehicles off the street. Secondly, and 2, it's only temporary. Regarding the driveway, I do believe there could be a considerable danger here with this. Okay, I spent only a few minutes at the site roughly a month ago in a non-traffic hour. And I did notice that a bit of a blind spot. Okay, like Mr. Teague mentioned that, you know, if the speed limit's obeyed, there's not a problem. Well, I can't sit here and take into consideration everybody's going to go the speed limit at the top of the hill. Regarding the lot size in the neighborhood, yes, 5,000 is the average, no doubt. That seems to be the norm. And I know in similar petitions, just months ago in the Upper Highlands near the Daily School, we approved a petition similar to this, where the requirement was 10,000 square feet, But the average was 8,000 on the street, not 5. I mean, this comes up grossly inadequate. The variances are overwhelming here. And it's no offense to the Guthries. It seemed like a very nice young family, and I do want to see them reside in the city of Lowell, wholeheartedly. But this is a tough spot. Now, Mr. Chairman, with all that being said, a few things I'd like to get some feedback from the other board members. And I would like to see if we can maybe stake off the lot where the house is going to sit. And I'd like to go there either 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night during traffic hour and investigate that blind spot a little deeper. I would, excuse me, I don't want to sit here and vote hastily on this tonight, because as of right now, I'm not in favor of the petition. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to possibly put this off a couple weeks, investigate where the house is going to go, take a look at this blind spot, and go from there. Thank you very much.
Well, let's see what the rest of the board members have to say. Go ahead, Mr. Carey.
I guess the issue to address first is the one that was spoken mostly of tonight, and that's the issue of safety. And I agree with Mr. Knox that I'm concerned if there's a safety issue there, that it's not being addressed by the city right now, or that the neighbors haven't addressed it with the city prior to somebody coming in with an application for a variance. I guess I'm not exactly sure what a blind spot is. I know that, just by its definition, there's a period where you can't see anything. I did drive up and down that street many times on several different occasions, and I know that it's a steep hill, and I know that, it's a difficult part of the hill right there, but I don't know that I noticed a blind spot, but I'm not sure exactly what a blind spot is, except to say that I think that the city, if it were that serious of a safety issue, would have already addressed it, or the neighbors would have brought it before the city, and either they did and the city decided it wasn't a safety issue, or just nobody has thought it was serious enough to address. So I think that that's the main thing. Maybe the city needs to address that issue, but I don't really see how approving this variance where, the relief isn't, I mean, if I'm reading the plot plan properly, the required area, the required lot size is 7,000 square feet, Mr. Tagg, and
Yes, Mr. Geary.
and you have 5,000. So I mean, although that's relatively significant, I did look at the plan that Mr. Kasanjian has, and as far as you look at the neighborhood as a whole, it is consistent. At least that lot size is consistent with the rest of the neighborhood here. That lot's not going anywhere, no matter what we decide tonight. The lot is going to be there, and my guess is that either Mr. Guthrie is going to use that or sell his property, and a successor buyer will use it. And I think the examples that were made, I could think of a few other ones, but the examples that were made, I take that point, and that's what I always try to look at to see what the worst case could be with that lot. Now, hypothetically, if we didn't do anything, and that was used for a garage or extra parking or whatever, and somebody could exit that side of the lot, that doesn't seem to be any different than if a house were there, except it gives a car more length, I guess, to speed out of there and make it more dangerous. So I don't see necessarily what the safety issue is here, because I don't see how, except for the temporary construction phase that I think we could deal with, I don't see how approving this project is going to make it less safe of a neighborhood. I think it was Mrs. Scanlon who said that the only reason that she's here is because of a safety issue. Otherwise, she wouldn't be here. At least I wrote that down. I think it was Mrs. Scanlon. Maybe it was Mr. Scanlon. But so that tells me that, other than the safety issue, that she wouldn't have a problem with this, this petitioner or this petitioner's application. So I think the temporary construction phase of it can be dealt with. I don't see that this single-family home that I guess the condition would be that it's going to go to a family member who have a young child who are very familiar with the neighborhood because they've lived there all these years. If that's correct, I think that was Mr. Guthrie had said he lived there for a long time, or at least a certain amount of time. So I don't know why anybody would want to subject a 2-year-old to, I guess, some safety hazards. So that's not my issue. I'm very concerned about safety. If there is a problem there, and I think it should be addressed with the engineer, traffic department, or whoever deals with that in the city. But as far as the project and the application, I think that the request is reasonable. It's within the neighborhood. It's consistent with what's there. I know that there are some lots that are larger, and maybe a couple of the owners are here tonight, and I understand your opposition to it as well, but those lots seem to have increased in size at some point from 5,000 to 7,500. So I don't think that I think that this proposal is more consistent with the neighborhood than it is in its existing condition. So if it was something like a 10,000 square foot requirement, and they were going down to 5, I think that it would be a little bit different, but it would still be within, the same character of the neighborhood for size lots. I don't think it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. I think it, possibly would look good there. But I would want to put a condition on, if I were to approve this, that the house does go back. I believe it was the 10 feet, because I agree with Mr. Kasanjian with the parking as proposed. I don't think I could support it in that fashion, but I would support a different type of parking in the front, and I would make it conditioned upon board approval of the plans, just to eliminate the possibility of, putting something in there that's not consistent with the neighborhood, and I guess, and to make sure that it doesn't create any safety hazards. But I don't think it's an overly intrusive use of that lot at all. In fact, I think it's as its existing stage, and what could possibly go there, whether by if Mr. Guthrie sells it or Mr. Guthrie does it himself, could have more of a negative impact, both aesthetically and safety-wise, to the neighborhood. So I'd be willing to support this petition with the conditions that I mentioned.
Okay, thank you. I also agree with Mr. Knox and Mr. Gary. Moving that house back 10 feet and giving some type of parking, additional parking, so you have at least 3 spots in the front. What I would like to do is possibly continue this for 2 weeks, go out there, meet with the owners, Mr. Guthrie, and possibly some of the neighbors. I'm sure the attorney can set that up. We can stake that house off where we'll move it back to the 25 feet from the street line. And we can take a look at that blind spot we're talking about, and hopefully we can all come with some type of agreement. And as far as the subcontractors, I was thinking where you have the driveway on Seal Street, maybe they can come through Seal Street, take that stockade fence they have down. And this way here, they have no choice. They have to park in that backyard. You know what I mean? So they're not going to be parking on the hill. Not going to be, because I know how subcontractors are. You can be on them 24/7, but as soon as you turn your back, they're going to take advantage of the situation and to ruin their quality of life while this house is going on for 3, 4, 5 months or whatever. It's not fair to them. So if you make a point that they do come in from Sale Street and they park in the backyard, I think that will solve that situation. But I personally would like to continue for 2 weeks. I don't really see a problem with it. I would support it, but I just want to push that house back, see where it's going to sit, see where the blind spot is, and that would satisfy my needs, and then I can either say yes or no 100%. I think what's happening a lot of times on Burnside Street is you're getting the cut through from Middlesex to Princeton Boulevard. You get that on Burnside, you're getting that on Foster, you're getting it on Seals, and that's what these individuals are doing. I think by adding one house over there with 2 cars is not going to be any type of detriment to the neighborhood or any type of safety factor. Like you said, Mr. Gary said, you can put a garage there and they could park there just like the individuals are doing on Fairgrove Street and cause the same situation as the house that's going to be there. So I would like to continue for 2 weeks. I'd see if the board members would want to vote on that and see what they have to say.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I agree with you on the site visit. I think that it shed some light with my concerns anyhow. I think the other board members. And secondly, what is the minimum requirement on that street? I have in mind 10,000, but...
No, ours says 7,000 square feet and he's shy 2,000. Have you looked in the plot plan?
Yes, okay.
Right. It's supposed to be 7,000 square feet and he has 5,000. He's shy 2,000 square feet. and he shot 5 feet of frontage. It's supposed to be 55, he has 50 feet. And everything else meets, yeah. He's got more than the rear yard setback, a side yard, so that's the only two things that he doesn't meet, the square footage and the frontage.
Okay. Well, with all that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue until April the 24th.
I need a second. What's the date?
Seconded.
April
23rd.
April 23rd.
23rd, sorry.
Seconded.
Okay, second by Mr. Knox. Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Belanger,
Continue?
Mr. Knox,
Continue.
Mr. Gary,
Continue.
and Mr. Kazanjian.
Continue to the April 23rd meeting. Mr. Teague, if you can reach out to the neighbors and our office, let's see if we can get some type of meeting out there, so the board members and myself can go out there.
After we get
And, yeah, and we'll see if we can get Mr. Aho to stake it off, set that back, that extra 10 feet, so it'll be like 25.5 feet away from the front lot line. If you have any questions, you can call the office, and we'll...
Will we have to resubmit the plan to show the building setting 10 feet further
Yes,
back?
that we'd want that, yeah, yeah. Once we get out there and meet, so let's see if we can do it this week. This way, I give Mr. Aho a chance to change the plot plan for the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay? Thank you very much. I want to thank the neighbors, and hopefully we see you out there. Okay?
Attorney Teague,
Mr. Teague? Next we have is new business, a variance. It's TRS Frawley, Realty Trust Frawley, David W. Trustee, 685, 689 Lawrence Street. It's a TMU, traditional mixed use. Refer to the abutters list to use the original petition, same list used for notification. To allow stacked parking within the garage area to satisfy the required parking as an amendment to the prior approval and petition granted on January 8th, 2007, and as required per the Lowell zoning ordinance, section 6.1.11.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, Lowell, representing David Frawley, trustee of Frawley Realty Trust, who's with me tonight along with John Dowling. If you recall, we were in front of you back, when was the hearing? Back in December, I think it was. And you approved our request. And at that time, the plan that was presented to this board for our townhouse units had two cars parked inside the garage. And that was on the plan that was submitted to you. Part of the approval also stated that we would, it had to do with the planning board approval, which had to do with presenting a plan to the planning board regarding parking for the entire site. Well, Mr. Frawley and Mr. Dowling met with representatives of the planning board, and there was a question because of a note included in the zoning ordinance as to whether the two cars parked in the garage qualify under the zoning. And I've given you a copy of that note, and I've outlined it in 11. It says that stacked parking is allowed for a residential development. And also it's allowed if you have one car in the garage and one car outside the garage, but there's no reference about two cars in the garage. And then it goes on further to say, in no other circumstances may may all or part of the minimum parking requirements be satisfied in any additional manner. So I think it was a mistake when they didn't refer to the two inside when it wasn't put in, but, I mean, I think the end result is the same as if we had one outside and one outside, the garage and one inside the garage. The space, and I've given you a plan of the space of this garage, it's 16 by 46, so there's plenty of room in there to park two cars. So I just like a clarification with that. I've met with the building inspector, and I think he kind of agrees with my interpretation of that, and I think it might have been a mistake. So if there is a variance required, we'd like to add that to the ones that were previously granted so that we can go forward with this project. But I think that, there is plenty of room to allow that parking inside.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here like to speak in favor for this petition? In favor? Anybody in opposition? In opposition? Okay. Hearing none. Yeah, I think you're right, Mr. Flood. I mean, with a one-car garage and a driveway and a car parked behind it, I can't see any difference.
It's the same
This
thing.
just the one car's inside the garage. The both cars are inside the garage, I should say. As long as there are any code violations or anything, I have no problem with it. Is Mr. Camacho any no problems at all? Yeah, I have no problem with it. But let me hear the
They have actually, they already have approval, because it was, the plan itself was approved,
right.
okay? There was no specific reference made to this out of the zoning
Okay.
that he's made tonight, but I consider it was a minor oversight. But
Okay.
my department doesn't have any problem.
Okay, great. That's all we need to know. I have no problem with it. I'm going to listen to the board members. Go ahead, Corey.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a great petition. Yet another one by,
Mr. Gary?
yeah.
No, I'm not sure what the issue is, but it looks like, I thought this is what we approved before, so.
Yeah.
No, the issue was the planning department interpreted that a little different than I did, and that Commissioner Camacho interpreted it. It's the same result. They said since there was no reference to two cars within the garage, it says one outside, one inside.
But I thought we did vote for stack parking now, at one point, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
I thought so. So I see this as the same before. I'd approved it, then I'll approve it now.
Okay.
We'll vote to approve it.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I mean, this is the norm for townhouse complexes, one in the garage, one in front. I mean, this is the norm citywide, and it's going to clean that building up. Some much-needed work, and we have clearance from the building commissioner, who doesn't have a problem with it, so I'm in favor. Thank you.
Okay. Jack?
I agree with all the board members. I think, we approved this once before. They needed clarity on the issue. It's been clarified. I'm certainly in favor of the petition.
Okay, I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve?
Seconded.
Second by Mr. Knox. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Gary?
Approve?
Mr. Knox?
Approve.
Mr. Belanger?
Approve?
And Mr. Kazanjian?
Approved. Been approved with 4 votes. We need to sign some paperwork. Good luck with the project. I need a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have minutes from February the 26th, is that correct?
What do we got here? All right. Everybody look at the minutes, are they all set with them?
Yep. And also March 12th. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for February the 26th, 2007, and March 12th, 2007.
Second those motions?
Okay, second by Mr. Gary. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. I need a motion to adjourn now.
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. Okay.